Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. On the day of Liam Spencer's funeral, the air was thick with melancholy in the Forrester estate's shadowy valleys, where secrets grew like poisonous nightshade. The enormous chapel, which was normally a refuge of whispered negotiations and brief loves, was transformed into a mausoleum of misery. Black-clad mourners filled the aisles, including relatives, friends, and rivals, each face carved with the searing anguish of loss. Hope Logan sat in the front row, her eyes puffy from the crying, clutching a single white rose that trembled in her hand. Her mother, Brooke, the pillar of delicate strength, clutched her hand tightly, as if to hold her daughter against the storm of tragedy. Liam Spencer, the Spencer dynasty's golden kid, meant everything to her. Their love had been a flurry of passion and peril, built in boardrooms and bedrooms and tested by betrayals that seemed never-ending in the competitive world of Forrester creations. He was Beth's faithful companion, the father of her child, and the guy who had promised her eternal love while his ex-wife Steffi plotted in the shadows. Now he lay in a polished mahogany casket at the altar, his once vibrant face peaceful in death, surrounded by flowers that mocked his loss of vitality. Hope's heart shattered with each sob that left her lips. "You killed my son," she whispered to the empty air, her voice a shattered plea, unaware of the full horror that awaited her. The service began with a sad song, and voices rose in dissonant harmony. Ridge Forrester, the patriarch whose life had been a patchwork of conflicting loyalties, stood at the platform, his massive shoulders slumping under the weight of unsaid regrets. He and Liam had battled like thunderclouds. Ridge, the designer extraordinaire, who was constantly split between Brooke and Taylor, saw Liam as both an ally and a foe in the never-ending custody fights for Hope and Steffi's children. "Liam was more than a son-in-law," Ridge said, his voice gravelly with emotion. "He was a fighter, a man who loved fiercely," he said, yet a murmur echoed around the audience. Anonymous suggestions to the press sow mistrust and scandal. The doors then opened violently, shattering the solemnity. Bill Spencer strode in, his face filled with rage and his eyes blazing like twin infernos. The media billionaire, Liam's father, had come not to mourn, but to accuse. He wore a harsh black suit that highlighted his imposing figure and clutched a heavy dossier of documents, his knuckles white. "Stop this farce," he exclaimed, his voice bouncing off the high ceilings. As heads turned, gasps echoed across the chapel. Hope's head snapped up, and her tear-stained face paled. "Bill? What are you?" "Liam was murdered," Bill exclaimed, slamming the paperwork onto the altar alongside the casket. Papers were scattered like fallen leaves. Autopsy reports, forensic studies, and witness accounts replete with incriminating evidence. The entire room froze in shock. Ridge's jaw fell, his blue eyes widening with surprise. Brooke grabbed her chest and Steffi, sitting stiff in the shadows, became ghostly white. Hope stood unsteadily, her legs quivering as the words stabbed her soul. "Murdered? No, it was an accident. The car crash. They said it was the rain-slicked roads." Bill laughed bitterly and without amusement. "Lies. All of it orchestrated by the very people who profited from his death." He pointed an accusatory finger directly at Ridge. "You Forrester. Your precious designs, your empire." Liam uncovered it all. The sabotage at the factory, the rigged brakes on that car. He was about to expose how you cut corners, how your greed killed workers before it claimed my son. The church roared in defiance. Mourners muttered feverishly, phones buzzed with urgent texts, and security hovered uncertainly at the margins. In the weeks leading up to the crash, Liam was restless, looking over classified papers in his immaculate office at Spencer Publications. Hope remembered his late evenings, the furrow in his brow as he murmured about corruption at the top. She dismissed it as work stress, lulling him into bed with kisses that hid her own insecurities. But Bill had known. As Liam's father, he'd watched his son delve further, revealing a network of theft linked to Forrester Creations' latest eco-friendly line. A ruse to conceal toxic waste dumping that poisoned rivers and lives. Liam had approached Ridge in a furious boardroom battle, demanding justice. "This ends now," Liam replied, his voice steely. Ridge denied it, but the seeds of wrath were planted. The collision was judged accidental, Liam's car hydroplaned off a coastal roadway and plunged into the roaring Pacific. However, Bill's investigators discovered manipulated brake lines and a mechanic bribed by a Forrester subcontractor. The dossier contained emails with timestamps matching Ridge's directives to handle the leak. Hope's reality shifted as she clutched a page, her fingers quivering. This can't be. Ridge, tell me it's not true. Ridge mumbled, his face pale. Hope, it was business. Liam was threatening everything we built. The funeral descended into chaos. Hope sank on her knees near the casket, her sobbing harsh and animalistic. You killed my son. How could you? She banged her fists against the board, the rose wilting in her hands. Bill loomed over Ridge and grabbed his collar. My boy is dead because of your lies. I'll bury you in court, in the press. Your empire will crumble. Ridge pushed him back, his amazement turning to defensive rage. You're deranged, Spencer. Liam was reckless, always meddling where he didn't belong. Steffi raced forward, her gaze flitting between her father and the Spencers. She had loved Liam once, amid the twisted web of their shared history, but duty bound her to Ridge. Dad, say it's not true, she begged, but Ridge's silence was deafening. Brooke, torn as always, drew Hope away, her own tears spilling. We need to get you out of here. But Hope refused, her grief escalating into wrath. She turned on Ridge, the man who had served as a father figure and lover to her mother. You ruined us all. For what? Fabric. As police sirens blared in the distance, called by panic screams, the church turned into a battleground of accusations. Bill disclosed additional details, including concealed cameras filming Ridge's henchmen in the garage and financial traces leading back to Forrester accounts. The truth spread like a deadly serpent, infecting the atmosphere. Hope's cries escalated into wails, her body tormented with the visceral ache of betrayal. Liam's laughter echoed in their Malibu home, his gentle hands on Beth's little figure, and the way he whispered, I love you, against her skin during stolen moments amid the chaos of their existence. Ridge, besieged and fractured, eventually broke. It wasn't supposed to go this far, he said, his voice shaking. Liam found the documents. I panicked. I told them to scare him, delay him. I never ordered that. However, the evidence portrayed a darker picture. Negligence leading to malice. Hope pounced at him, her nails scraping his cheek, before Brooke interfered. Monster, she shrieked. Bill nodded darkly, promising retribution. This isn't over. Justice for Liam. The mourners fled or congregated in horror, leaving the casket unattended while the service's heart bled out. Hope clutched to the edge, apologizing to Liam's lifeless body. I'm sorry I didn't see it. I should have protected you. Her anguish was a bottomless hole, unique in its combination of lost love and the merciless blade of truth. The Forrester legacy, once sparkling, is now stained with blood. Days turned into a nightmare of inquiries. Hope returned to the cabin where she and Liam had honeymooned, the walls resonating with ghosts. Beth's innocent questions, such as, "Where's Daddy?" twisted the wound even further. Bill, spurred by paternal rage, unleashed a media frenzy, with headlines screaming, "Forrester murder plot exposed." Ridge faced imprisonment, his business wobbling. Steffi, crushed, approached Hope with a hesitant olive branch. "I didn't know," she murmured, her tears matching Hope's. But forgiveness remained a distant shore. Hope's anguish turned into a peaceful resolve. She turned it into advocacy, exposing corporate misdeeds and commemorating Liam's fight. However, nights brought torment, dreams of what-ifs and a life unlived. Bill, ever the titan, rebuilt Spencer Publications on the wreckage of scandal, but his eyes cast an indelible shadow. Ridge, who was behind jail awaiting trial, wrote letters of remorse which Hope burnt unread. In the end, the funeral's demise signaled not only a death, but the death of illusions. Hope grew stronger, her anguish a forge for purpose, whispering to the stars, "You were murdered, my love, but your truth lives." The valley mended slowly, damaged but enduring, a tribute to the fragility of love and the sting of betrayal. The chapel was adorned with lilies and white roses, their aroma lingering in the silent air. The sky outside was gloomy and bulging with rain, as if the heavens were waiting for the perfect moment to explode. Every seat in the chapel was full, yet no one spoke. An oppressive stillness descended upon the room as Hope sat in the front row, her hands quivering in her lap. Her eyes were red from sobbing, and the tears would not stop even now. The polished wood coffin at the front of the room, which shone softly in the dim light, contained everything she had ever loved. Liam, her husband, her best friend, the father of her child, gone. When the priest began to talk, his tone was calm and reverent. He spoke of life and forgiveness, and how death is simply another door. Hope could barely hear him. Her eyes never left the casket. Her fingers gripped around the little white rose she was holding, its petals damaged from where her nails cut into it. It did not feel real. Could not be real. Liam was laughing in the kitchen at midnight, the warmth of his arms when the world felt too heavy, and the steady heartbeat that had kept her safe through storms. Now there was only silence. Only the cold. Rich sat a few rows behind her, his face taut. He'd always thought of Liam as a son, even when their family links were twisted and braided beyond belief. He had tried to be strong for Hope and for everyone, but the weight of sadness was a living thing, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. Brooke approached him, reaching for his hand, but Rich couldn't force himself to look her in the eyes. He kept looking at Bill Spencer, who sat apart from the others, his visage cut from stone. The man had not spoken a word since his arrival, but his presence was thunderous. Everyone felt it, his rage, remorse, and secrets. Hope grew when the priest invited anyone who wanted to speak. Her knees wobbled, but she stood erect and took a trembling breath. Her voice quivered as she started. She praised Liam's kindness, patience, and ability to see the good in everyone. She recounted stories, small, quiet ones. He recalled dancing with her in the rain one night when they were young, and how he built a cradle for their daughter with his own hands, smoothing the wood till it sparkled. People were in tears yet smiling. Soft sobbing echoed throughout the chapel. Hope's remarks expressed both love and loss. When she was finished, she turned to stare at the coffin again, murmuring, "I'll never stop loving you." She then bowed her head and took a step back. The priest congratulated her and asked others to come forward. For a moment no one moved. Then Bill stood. The sound of his chair scraping the floor caused everyone to turn. He didn't walk, he prowled. His black suit was spotless, his jaw was set, and his eyes were a hurricane barely restrained. When he reached the pulpit, he gripped the edge so firmly that his knuckles turned white. The priest paused, sensing the tension in the room, but Bill did not wait for permission. "My son," he said, his voice cracking with the word. "My son is in that box because someone wanted him there." Gasps erupted like wildfire. Hope froze. Rich stiffened, eyes narrowed. Bill continued, his voice becoming louder. "You all want to talk about forgiveness and faith, but I can't stand here and pretend this was just an accident, a tragic twist of fate. Liam was murdered." The word blasted into the air, crisp and final. The priest attempted to soothe Bill, but he disregarded him. "They informed me it was an accident. They said the brakes failed and that it was no one's fault. But I have seen the reports. I have seen the evidence. Someone messed with his automobile." His voice broke again, full of wrath and grief. "And I'm going to find out who did it," Hope exclaimed, feeling the earth tilt. Her breath caught in her throat. The murmurs surrounding her rose. Incredulity, amazement, and fear. She gazed at Bill, her vision blurred. "No," she said quietly, shaking her head. "No, that can't be true." Bill fixed his focus on her. "I wish it weren't, Hope. But I swear to you that my son did not die by chance. Someone made certain he never returned home that night." The room erupted. Ridge rose, his voice authoritative. "Bill, this isn't the time or place." "The time is now," Bill exclaimed, smashing his hand into the pulpit. "You want me to stand here and smile while they bury my son, knowing there is a killer out there? No, I won't." Hope's cries cut through the air. Brooke rose to take Hope into her arms, but she staggered away, crying, "Who would do this? Who would want to hurt him?" Bill's eyes glistened, yet there was fire behind his tears. "That's what I'm going to find out." Outside, thunder rumbled as rain began to fall, beating against the stained glass windows. The sound filled the silence after his words. The funeral was concluded, but the ritual itself had not ended. The truth had shattered the day's serenity, and nothing would be the same again. After the mourners had dispersed and only family remained, Ridge approached Bill. "You shouldn't have done that," he stated quietly. Bill glanced at the casket. "You just turned a funeral into a crime scene." "It is a crime scene," he explained. Ridge's jaw tightened. "My son's grave is the evidence." "You don't even know for sure." "I know enough," Bill countered. The brake cables were cut cleanly. No fraying, no rusting. Someone wanted him dead. Hope sat nearby, cradling the rose she'd carried before, now limp and discolored. She appeared lost, her voice barely a whisper. "Why him? He never wounded anyone." Bill turned to face her, his expression softening briefly. "That is exactly why. Good men like Liam create enemies without even trying. Someone envied him. Or someone wanted to punish him. Maybe punish me." Hope gazed up at him, confused by her sadness. "Punish you?" Bill paused. He looked at Ridge, whose eyes narrowed. "There are things I've done," Bill finally admitted. "Commercial transactions, grudges, and decisions that made people loathe the Spencer name. Perhaps they couldn't reach me, so they took my son instead." The stillness that followed was awful. Ridge stepped forward. "Bill, if that is true, you owe it to Liam to handle this properly. Allow the cops to investigate." Bill laughed bitterly. "Do you think I trust them? They closed the case before even inspecting the car thoroughly." "I'll find out the truth for myself," Hope said, shaking her head angrily. "Please, no more vengeance." Bill's eyes met hers, and the rage flared for a second. Liam would not want that. "What Liam would want doesn't matter anymore," he continued, his voice breaking. "He is gone. And I can't live with it unless I know why." The rain outside poured down. Lightning flared, casting a momentary light across the casket. Hope closed her eyes and whispered Liam's name, as if it would bring him back. In the days that followed, the uproar over Liam's death only intensified. The autopsy report was re-examined. The mechanic who last maintained Liam's car has gone missing. Rumors began to circulate that the crash was not the only weird event that occurred that night. Security footage from an adjacent road disappeared. A witness who claimed to have seen another automobile following Liam's was abruptly unavailable. Hope struggled to breathe under the weight of it all. Her anguish was turning into terror. Every time the phone rang, her heart pounded. Every time she closed her eyes, she could see the headlights, skid marks, and the sound of metal and glass. Bill spent his nights in his office, going through files, calling in favors, and intimidating anyone who refused to speak. He became obsessed by it. Ridge challenged him multiple times, saying that his addiction would destroy him. But Bill just answered, "It already has." Then one evening, Hope arrived at Spencer Publications, determined to get him to stop. "You're tearing everything apart," she begged. Bill banged his fist on the desk. "Liam wouldn't want this. Stop telling me what Liam wants. He is not here to want anything." His voice shook and he turned aside, holding the window's edge as if to keep himself steady. "Do you think I like it? I lost my son Hope. The only thing I can do for him now is seek justice." Hope's tears fell freely. "Justice won't bring him back." Bill peered over his shoulder, his expression flat. "No, but maybe it'll let me breathe again." Something changed that night. Ridge arrived abruptly with a file. "You should see this," he stated. Inside were images of security footage, obtained from a private investigator. A dark SUV was following Liam's automobile soon before the crash. Bill's breath caught. "Who owns this?" he demanded. Ridge paused. "That's the thing. It's registered to your company." Bill's face paled. "That's impossible." Ridge responded calmly. "Someone on your payroll may have done this." Hope grabbed her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God." Bill collapsed into his chair, the world tilting beneath him. Betrayal, guilt, and fear collided within his chest. He had built his empire on control, anticipating every move, but suddenly he had no idea who to trust. Days progressed into weeks. The probe deepened. Then came the ultimate blow. A confession from Carter, a longtime Bill employee. In a shaky voice, he admitted that someone had hired him to tamper with Liam's car. Someone who had formerly worked for Bill's rival company and was seeking vengeance for a corporate conflict Bill had won years prior. Carter tried to back out, but the transaction was finalized. Liam had been in the wrong location at the wrong time, driving a car intended for his father. When Bill learned the truth, he fell to his knees. The scream he made was not human. It was the sound of a heart breaking. Hope stood next to him, unable to say. Ridge watched, his anguish tinged with empathy. Bill mumbled, "It should have been me." Hope knelt alongside him, her tears flowing freely. "He loved you," she explained. "He wouldn't want you to think that." Bill gazed up at her, his eyes burning. "He died because of me." There was no disputing that truth. It hovered between them, nasty and unforgiving.